Good morning, everyone. Oh my gosh, technology is not my friend. I did something that kept you from seeing my original live at 9:30, which I thought was pretty darn good, actually. So I'm going to do my best to recreate it here for you. I am a new member of the My Time Out team. My name is Fern Weis. I'm a parent coach and a family recovery coach, and I work primarily with parents of teens, tweens, and young adults. Today, I'm going to give you some background about how I came to be a parent coach, because this did not happen by accident, for sure. And then we'll talk about the topic about you are not alone, and you'll see how all this is going to tie in together. So why don't we just jump right in? I am no stranger to adversity. Everybody has something that they're dealing with in their life. And, when I was a kid, in spite of being shy and having my own version of difficulty during adolescence, I really felt like I lived a charmed life. And then I got married at 25, 26. That was kind of normal back then. And we wanted kids pretty quickly. So we tried and ended up realizing that we had infertility issues. Ultimately, we adopted 2 kids. I have a son who is now 33 and a daughter who's 29, and that just blows me away every time. I can't believe that I'm that old. We've also dealt with, in addition to infertility and adoption, we have dealt with learning issues, ADD, kids derailing, changing our expectations for what we hope their life would look like. So fast forward to my son's high school years, and we were truly living a nightmare. I can't tell you some of the story. It's really his story to tell, but I will talk about how all this was for me and for my husband and for my daughter too. So he was off the rails. We were standing at the edge of the cliff just watching all of this happen, and in denial for a long time. And when we finally pulled ourselves together and realized what was going on, we took an intervention for him. Sent him to a wilderness program for a month. And by the time he came back, we had lined up this place called Hyde School, Hyde. It's a boarding school. And Hyde is family-based character education. So while the kids are there 24/7, learning about themselves, their potential, digging into who they are and what got them there, the parents are also part of a rigorous parent program and figuring out their side of things. And that's when I learned that parenting is really about the parents, right? You have these kids on the other side who do what they're going to do in spite of your punishments and your threats and your consequences. If they're not motivated, then it's really hard to make that happen, and you find yourself feeling powerless. What you can do is work on yourself. And I learned so much about myself during those years, what I could do differently, what I could do better. So we were part of that program for 2 years. We had regional parent groups. We had family weekends that were really dig until you felt like you were wiping yourself up off the floor. But it all worked out well. And so he graduated after 2 years, went to college. He's working in his field of hotel and restaurant management. I'm sorry, I see these things popping up on the side and they're really distraction. Hi, Renee. Hey, Joan. Nice to see you. So to continue the story, he went on to college. He did his thing, and we really thought that everything was going well. While all that had been going on, I got my teacher certification, and I taught for 13 years. It was not a good experience for me. In fact, it was anxiety-provoking most of the time. I don't really think I meant to be in the classroom. After a certain amount of time, I realized that I was the go-to person. And one day, a colleague was telling me about some things going on in her family. And at the end, she said, "Fern, don't miss your calling." And that was it. I'd been looking for a way out. And within 3 months, I had enrolled in a life coaching certification program that lasted for a year. And I knew that I had arrived. I had come home to the kind of work that I was supposed to be doing. So fast forward a little bit, there were some parents coming to me who had kids who were either dabbling in drugs, or it turned out that they were active users and had problems. And so I went and got my certification in family recovery coaching, which is to support the family members and friends of those who are living with addiction, because they need just as much support as the person who is struggling with the addiction. The rest of them are struggling as well. And this kind of rounds out the picture. You know, I saw that the language and the concepts and the strategies were very similar to what I was doing as a parent coach, which, by the way, was based a lot on what I had done up at Hyde School. So if you just take the word addiction out, you're really talking about the same things. And ultimately, it's about focusing on yourself and doing whatever you can to build and maintain a relationship with the other person so that you never lose that connection. That's critical. If you want to accomplish anything at all, you have to have a reasonable connection with your child. So 6 years ago, I actually left teaching. I just walked away and said, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so it's what I'm doing. And I just love being here and talking to parents and helping them puzzle through what's going on with their life, improve their communication skills, boundary setting, building those relationships, which really are the foundation for everything that comes afterward. So that's a synopsis of how I got here. And over time, I'll be telling you more stories from my personal experiences. But in the meantime, I wanted to move on to one other thing I wanted to cover before I move on to that idea of you're not alone. I don't have a lot of guilt about some of the things that have happened, but now my 29-year-old daughter is really struggling with a lot of stuff. And I think a great deal of it goes back to those days when my son was out of control. So I want to encourage all of you who are going through something difficult at home, and all the focus is on one child who's sucking the air out of the room. We're all dancing around this one person trying to survive and manage things, and other people get lost in the shuffle. And that's what happened to my daughter. And for that, I do have guilt, because I look back and say, if only, what if we had paid more attention to her back then? What if she hadn't become the person who was the mediator and the peacemaker and covering for her brother and all kinds of awful things? So if you're in that position, please, please take care of your kids, all of them. The ones who are not difficult need your attention just as much as the ones who are. And I'm going to take a 3-second break here to let the dog out of the room, because if I don't, you'll never have my full attention. There you go, Missy. You can go now. Okay. Go, 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 go. Oh, no. Timing is everything. So back to the topic about not being alone. Those of us who are trying to cope with really tough situations with our kids, I remember saying, I remember feeling that the time when we needed the most support was really the time that we felt the most alone. And I know that's true, because every time I go into a room and do a program or a discussion group or talking to a client, and one of the first things that they'll say after we've spoken for a while is, oh my gosh, I have felt so alone and so isolated. And this is the gift that I hope to give of allowing people to share in a safe space what's going on with them. You know, we can sit in a group of people who, parents of kids were, especially the middle schoolers and the high schoolers, were all gearing up for college, and they're accomplishing this and they're active in that. And the ones who are getting the great grades, the parents are pleased and proud and gushing about how well their kids are doing. And the rest of us are thinking, I'd really like to be sharing and proud of what my kid is doing, but I can't be right now. And so I sat there quietly and smiled, right? I was there, but not really in spirit. My spirit was really broken. And if you do say something, the conversation comes to a grinding halt. It's awkward. People don't know what to say. They don't want to hurt you, but they also don't know how to help you. So we keep these things to ourselves, and we're very isolated. I remember when we were going through the worst of it with my son, dropped my daughter off at school one day. She was in a very small school. There was always a teacher outside greeting all the children as they came in. And one day when I dropped her off, one teacher who I really hadn't said much to that year, I told her what was going on and said, if my daughter has any unusual behaviors or responses today, this is what's going on, and you should understand that it's all probably a result of this. And before I knew it, this teacher was spilling everything. She was telling me about her 19-year-old son. They had to have a restraining order against him, and she was devastated, and her heart was broken, and she was afraid of him because there was violence there too. And I realized how much people are desperate to be able to share what's going on with them, to know that other people understand. They may not be going through the same thing, but the feelings are all the same. And when we look at it, these are actually the things that connect us. We have more in common with people than we know, only no one wants to be the one to say, oh, wait, no, my kid's not excelling in school, and I don't even know if he's going to get to college. I don't even know if he's going to graduate high school. How about that? And we can't do that. We can't. There's a lot of shame, embarrassment, disappointment, a big sense of loss. So I just want you to know that there are people out there who are going through what you're going through. And one day when you feel safe enough to be vulnerable and let a little piece of yourself come out and be truthful about what's going on with you, to whatever extent you choose. You don't have to spill everything. But when you feel it's safe, I encourage you to find the courage to take the chance, because there is nothing like the support of people who understand what you're going through. So that's the piece about not being alone. And certainly this page, I think Renee has created a place where people can be honest and open about what they're struggling with. I would love to participate in that and support you in any way I can. Also, please leave a note for me. I know some of you are working outside the home or have very inflexible schedules. Let me know what times of day work for you. I want to mix this up if I can, so that more of you can see this live. One more thing, I'd like to offer you something for free on my website. There's a free report called 5 Powerful Steps to Get Your Teen to Talk. So when we talked about that relationship building, this is the place to start. So if you go to www.fernweis.com, and remember it's Weiss with one S, download that report, and you'll also get a twice monthly newsletter with articles and other resources. So feel free to reach out at any time. I'm really glad to have been able to tell you a little something about myself now, and each week I'll be on again, but not on Thursdays. This really was somebody else's day. We're getting that schedule worked out. So visit every week, take a look at what I've got to offer, and know that I am here as a resource for you, no strings attached. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Take care. Bye.